Welcome back to theCUBE coverage here on the ground in Las Vegas. It's Dell Technologies World 2026. I'm Gemma Allen, joined by my co-host Dave Vellante, and this is the last segment of the day and the week.
Oh my goodness.
Bringing us home.
The grand finale, let's do it. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Saving the best for last, right guys?
All right, let's do it.
Joining me now is Jon Siegal, SVP of Product Marketing at Dell, and Todd Goldberg, Chief Business Officer at Avatar Medical. So what better way to close this week out than with a real life case study of how this magic happens and brings realized value in the field. Let's start with you, Todd.
All right.
Avatar Medical, break it down. What do you guys do and how has Dell fundamentally shifted the vision for this business?
Yeah, thanks, Gemma. The vision for Avatar Medical is really to change the practice of medicine. We make software that instantly converts the MRI and CT medical images into personalized 3D models. And we deploy those models first at the very beginning of the patient's journey, which is the exam room. And so if you think about that space, it's really had a lack of innovation for about 50 years. You know, the bed with the tissue paper on it, the instruments that hang off the wall, the blood pressure cuff, the wheelie stool, the sink, it's all the same. Now granted, the images used to be printed on film and then we'd put them up on a light board. At least those are digital now, but the images and the technology around those images started in the 70s. The challenge has been the same since it came out, which is people don't really understand two-dimensional black and white images that are inverted, where right is left and left is right. They're shown in slices, they're shown in orthogonal planes. Bottom line is people don't understand these images, so Avatar Medical instantly converts them into a personalized 3D model, and that we have some wonderful downstream benefits when we do that.
Wow. And Jon, talk about this relationship, how you guys work together.
Yeah, I think, so we work closely together is, first of all, it's such a pleasure to see how tech for good can really, help the medical community. And the Dell Pro Precision line that we have today, that we just refreshed actually recently, the last few months, plays an integral role in what they do, both from a desktop perspective. They use, I know, the Dell Pro Micro, down to using I think even the GB10 as well.
Oh, so fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, so it's everything from what we traditionally have supported to even AI now as well. And so it's been a really great partnership to see how our latest and greatest technology can be translated into eye-opening benefits, to say the least, in terms of what they're bringing to the market.
So that 2D to 3D rendering, you've obviously got that automated. What does that look like? Have we got agents running around, or?
Yeah, it's done instantly on the Dell Pro Precision, based on where we are in the hospital. If we're in the exam room, if we're in perioperative services to actually plan the operation digitally, we might use the larger version. If we're in the exam room, we might use the micro, because you can just simply fixate it to the back of the monitor. The monitor's an additional piece of technology that's really impactful. So we partnered with another Dell partner by the name of Barco. It's a Belgium company. They're one of the leaders in medical monitors, radiology monitors specifically, and they created this product called an auto-stereoscopic screen. What that means is it has eye tracking in the sort of upper frame of the screen, and it'll lock in on your eyes, deliver our image, that three-dimensional model of the anatomy, crisscross in different depths to each eye. And the net effect of that is your brain is doing the work, but the net effect of it is the image comes right out of the screen with no glasses, no goggles. So you really get true 3D with depth simply by standing in front of this stack.
Very cool.
You paint an interesting picture there of these examination rooms, right? Which you're right, they haven't changed in a long time. I was just in one recently with my daughter. They have lollipops now, which is, some added advantage, but not enough. But when we think about the back end to these businesses, right, to medical outlets in general, we know that there's huge administrative overhead. It's tough to compete with talent in that space and the technology world, especially the last 10 years, right, when folks are working for tech titans, they might not necessarily be running IT at hospitals. How are things shifting? And how, when you go to market with products like this and you have these conversations with decision makers, what are they really honing in on now?
That's a great question because a lot of companies today are coming into the healthcare environment, specifically hospitals, and they're talking about cost efficiencies, they're talking about doing more with less, they're talking about cost cutting, quite frankly. And all those things are good, but they do reach sort of the law of diminishing return, right? At some point, every business has to grow to survive. So we come in and we talk about growing top-line revenue. How do we do that? It's done in two ways. First, if you think about the neighborhood you live in, right? You're in New York. You think about the brands, the healthcare brands in New York. It's a great city, great example. There's probably 4 really major brands there, right? You got Mount Sinai, you've got Northwell Health, Lenox Hill, you've got NYU, of course, and then you have New York Presbyterian, Columbia, Cornell. All those brands are legendary, they're amazing. They work really hard on their reputation. The doctors speak from podiums, they create cures to diseases, new inventions and innovations all the time. They tout the amazing equipment they have in the operating room, like robotics, and all those things are designed to get people to come for care when they need it, right? What gets them to stay? See, that's where we started to focus. The beginning of that journey is in the exam room, and the bottom line is, if a family like you with your child, if you have a connection with that doctor and you build trust, then you're more likely to stay with that doctor and have whatever treatment you need or your family needs at that hospital. The reverse is also true. And so the concept is simple, it's not easy, but it's simple. It is keep more of what you already have. See, not everybody who comes for a surgical consult at, say, an NYU stays at NYU. Well, why not? We got really interested in that, and we believe that it starts with the patient experience. Well, how do you improve the patient experience? Well, first of all, it has to evolve. We can't keep looking at two-dimensional images that are 50 years old. We've got 3D, we've got a way to experience 3D, we've got a way to personalize it, we do it all instantly, all embedded in the workflow, and so that allows the surgeon to communicate with the family in a way that they should, which is they don't have to be condescending or dumb anything down or draw pictures on the tissue paper that covers the bed, which a lot of surgeons are sort of forced to do. They can use medical jargon. You don't have to be an expert in anatomy to know what a carotid artery is if the surgeon points at the screen and says, you see this red tubular-like structure on your digital neck? That's your carotid artery. This is important in your case because of XYZ ABC. So it makes the surgeon's life easier to be able to communicate to the patient. The patient appreciates it because finally somebody's talking to them in a way they can understand. And when you're talking about big elective surgeries like brain surgery, spine surgery, heart surgery, it's really important because there's a lot of anxiety. It's scary. And the biggest fear that people have, really not just in healthcare, but in anything in life, is the fear of the unknown. And so to demystify what is happening with your brain, with your body, and having the surgeon communicate to you in a way you can understand, it builds this bond and this trust. And no one's going to let anyone operate on them if you don't trust. And then lastly, the hospital benefits because about 70% of their revenue is surgical services. So you have to grow. So it's not about trying to attract more patients. A lot of these big brands, they have a lot of patients coming. It's about keeping more of what's already coming and giving them a stellar patient experience, which patients will rate accordingly.
So the patient experience is very, very clear. Are there benefits in terms of patient outcomes? Sort of two parts. For the docs, 3D image, does that help them? But certainly for the patient, having a better understanding and taking control of their own outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of published literature that says if you feel like you're a part of your healthcare decision, the downstream outcomes improve. So simple things like adhering to the treatment regimen post-consultation, post-surgery even. So there's a lot of literature on that, but really where the surgeons get even more excited is once surgery is accepted, now we go into actually 2 phases. First phase is multidisciplinary collaboration. If it's a tumor, if it's cancer, it's called tumor board. And you've got this room filled with amazing intellectual talent, right? You've got neuroradiologists, you have medical oncologists, you have surgeons, right? And they're all collaborating to determine what's the right path, the best path for this patient. Well, when the image is in 2D, everybody in that room sees it a little bit differently, right? The neuroradiologists, where that's all they studied, right? They're experts in their mind's eye, they're seeing it in 3D, clear. Everybody else a different degree of that. When you use Avatar Medical and Barco, which is called Ionis Vision, you instantly convert it to 3D. Now the playing field's sort of level, right? Everybody sees the image in the way that our maker intended, which is, we experience the world in 3D, right? And that leads to the right decision for the patient. Is the tumor resectable? Do we need to use radiation first to shrink it? Do we need medical oncology first? And then once the decision is made, if it is surgery, now you go into the surgical planning phase and you actually plan the operation on the personalized anatomy and pathology of the patient. So a digital plan is created on that patient's digital twin, and the operation is literally rehearsed and performed digitally on the digital representation of the patient before they ever actually go do the operation in the exam room. Lots of literature on that. It's probably a good idea to plan operations before you go do them, right? So everybody's anatomy's not exactly the same, and when you have an abnormality in the anatomy, like a tumor or some sort of vascular abnormality, things change, they move. And so those are where you get strong clinical outcomes. And then back around into that operating room, how can these images be valuable to surgeons and surgical teams to understand what we're going into? What are we trying to fix? What's the fastest, safest, most efficient way to get from point A, the opening, to point B, which is where you're trying to make that therapeutic change?
What fascinates me about companies like this and this moment we're in, we hear from a lot of founders who are building a lot of great developments in the world of tech, right? The opportunity is huge. I hear this and I think, how has this not happened already, Like, how do we not have a situation where we have 2D or whatever it might be happening in market? And I guess there's a number of reasons, right? Like, we've had rigidity across certain industries for a while. There's challenges to deployment, challenges to budgets, but also challenges to who you have to convince of the value of that technology. And I think with AI, that is really shifting. So when you guys are going out to market with this, who are you really convincing? Is it surgeons? Is it IT decision makers? Is it both? And how is that convergence happening?
That's a great question. I mean, we look at the surgical disciplines, say neurosurgery, for example. The surgeons are the users, the end users. They have to embrace it, they have to like it, they have to see value in it. So we can come in and talk about it, we can even show it to them, do a live demo. It's quite an experiential technology as the image comes right out of the screen and all. But when they're really convinced is when they actually see their own patient react. Right? They've done thousands of consults, many of them. They've seen how people typically react. Sometimes this is like the worst day of somebody's life. If you think about it, you're being told you have a brain tumor, you have a long road ahead, that kind of thing. And yet when they show them their own brain in 3 dimensions with auto-stereoscopy where it's coming out of the screen, patients get it. And this knowledge brings comfort. Right? Remember, the fear of the unknown is the scariest part. So when you really understand it, even if the news is bad, there's a degree of comfort that comes with that. And so the surgeon's the end user, but the buyer is not the surgeon. The buyer is the C-suite of the hospital that has 2 really big responsibilities. One, they have to grow top-line revenue. Any business has to grow. And 2, they are generally responsible for the overall patient experience scores and the dollars that are tied to it through programs like HCAP, which is a Medicare program in the US.
So how do you handle HIPAA compliance? Is it as simple as just plugging into the Epic system? Do you have regulatory hurdles that you have to achieve as a software company? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, the product is FDA cleared and CE marked. That clearance is really centered around the surgical plan itself, so clinical decisions can be made from the renderings themselves, so that's first. Second, we do embed the product as a third-party software into Epic. So the doctor's going to open the patient's chart as they normally would. They're going to go into the imaging tab as they normally would. And when they find that 2D image data set, that MRI, there's a button. It says Avatar Medical, and that instantly converts it into 3D. So the workflow's pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. Now, where does the MRI come from? The MRI comes from PACS. So we also need to have that query retrieve license with PACS to go get that image, pull it into Avatar to convert it. But this is where I think as we start to develop more algorithms that are going to bring the value of AI for good into this setting, that's where I think the GB10 brings a ton of value, because no hospital wants data going out, right? Especially medical images. These are very sensitive, big files, and being able to develop and run algorithms and test on-prem, very, very important, very impactful. And the real-time nature of it, as it starts to develop into an actual product that gets its own FDA clearance, you've got to make your algorithm and the processing of those decisions and all those inputs has to be made in real time.
Yes. Yeah, this is exactly the type of use case that we were talking about all week with the GB10. Part of our announcement this week with Desktop Agentic AI, it was really about helping customers have a more secure and cost-effective way to run AI on premises locally. And we had a couple different use cases that we've been highlighting all week, and one of them is just around large data sets, number one, with sensitive data that has to stay local. And this is a prime example of that, and something that we think is going to be a use case that we're going to be highlighting for some time. The power that you get in just a small form factor is quite amazing, and it allows you and your team to really experiment.
It's truly
experiment and
AI to the data, right? Like this is the absolute prime example of that in action.
Yeah, and making sure that next visit, like you said, we were talking earlier, with so much data on a patient, you can run it through these AI algorithms and make sure that their next visit is a really good one for them and a good experience. So I think sky's the limit. We're seeing so many different, one of the things that's been really exciting this week is how the GB10 is being used by different vertical companies around the world in so many different ways. Right over here we have the Nemo Claw lab where people are literally, it's sold out all week, it's all filled up, and people are deploying agents, Nemo Claw, with Nemo Claw on GB10s. And we're just learning about so many exciting use cases, and this is a prime example of one with Barco Medical.
Are you going to market with a solution? Is it a package? Are you selling just the software? How does this work?
Yeah, we put it together as a bundle. So we'll have a Pro Precision workstation, either a micro or the real business, the larger one. So like in the perioperative services room where surgeries are planned, we're going to use the larger tower workstation. In the exam room or in the OR where space is really at a premium, you're going to use the micro. And then that's tethered to the Barco auto-stereoscopic screen, and of course on that box, on that Dell Pro Precision, is the software, the Avatar Medical Vision software.
Wow, well folks.
Wait, one last question. Tell us more about the company, how you're capitalized, when did the company start, how long have you guys been around?
Yeah, the company's about 4 years old. It started and is based in Paris, France. It's actually a tech transfer from a place called the Institut Pasteur, the famous Louis Pasteur. For those who don't know what that really is, I didn't until I got to Avatar Medical. It's kind of like the NIH, but in France. So a lot of the brightest research minds go there, and then when they create amazing things, you can do tech transfers and start companies from those innovations. So that's what Avatar Medical is. And then once we got FDA clearance, we opened an office in Silicon Valley. We're post-seed. We're actually circulating a term sheet now for our Series A, and we believe we've found our product market fit, which is the entry points, the exam room, and then we plan to permeate the whole treatment continuum. We're working on some really amazing AI innovations for the actual operations themselves.
Wow, so you got 4 years in, you got the product market fit with just seed money. Yep. Was it like a $10 million seed round, or was it,
Well, the company's done a great job with non-dilutive financing because the grants that are available in the European Union are phenomenal, and we just happen to have an amazing grant writing team, a couple of PhDs who really know how to compel. Yeah.
I love a great European success story, I have to tell you, as a European myself.
Yeah, me too, I love it.
So folks, talk about what's ahead for this relationship. It sounds though there's a lot of opportunity here. You're just cutting your teeth into an industry that's ripe for disruption. What will the next year look like?
Yeah, look, we're continuing to innovate on our side, and we're partnering with a number of new products that you're bringing out as well. So I think, look, sky's the limit right now. I think now in this era of agentic AI, we hope that we can arm you and to do more experimentation and come up with even more new products.
Yeah, I think products like the GB10 really help us explore the capabilities of our engineering team. One of the things we always like to do, remember the surgeons we view as the end user, I always like to ask the surgeons, what's something that you wish you had and your colleagues wish they had but doesn't yet exist? That's where our innovation usually starts. And then usually they'll share something that seems really unreachable, but when you really break it down and you pair amazing surgeons with amazing engineers, computer scientists, as long as you have somebody sort of bridging that, translating that, which is one of the things I like to do for this company, you can create magic. And so AI algorithms that, for example, leverage data from the last 1,000 cases to inform the next 1,000. You know, if you're patient number 1001, you deserve to get the type of treatment and care that came from the knowledge of the last 1,000. And I think we're right on the precipice of that.
Well, it certainly sounds as though there is a meeting of brilliant minds here, as is this partnership. So folks, wish you all the best for the year ahead.
We're very excited about this.
Thank
and
you so much.
It's, again, tech for good, AI for good. This is what it's about.
I love
it's nice to end the week on a note like this, isn't it?
That's right, absolutely.
To that note, that is a wrap for Dell Technologies World 2026. We have been here on the ground with theCUBE in Las Vegas. What a phenomenal week. Dave, I don't know if you have anything to add before we wrap up?
No, just go check out siliconangle.com. The team is just pumping out the content. We got stuff on theCUBE research, and of course thecube.net is where you see all these videos. Go to theCUBE AI too. Ask it what happened at Dell Tech World, thecubeai.com.
I love it. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.